This story is titled, "My Family Said My Cooking Was So Bad, Even a Dog Would Starve." So at Christmas, I secretly hired a private chef. Everyone praised my improvement, until they found the chef's business cards hidden in the trash. Now they refuse to speak to me. Okay, so first off, let me just say, I'm not Gordon Ramsay. I'm not even Gordon from the local diner Ramsay. But I can follow a damn recipe. I can boil water without setting the house on fire. Basic adult skills, right? Apparently not according to my family. I'm Ben, 34M, accidental culinary war criminal, if you ask my mom. There's Mom, Linda, 62F, queen of the passive-aggressive casserole. Dad, Jim, 64M, who thinks anything without bacon is fancy food for city folk. My sister Casey, 29F, Instagram foodie with zero actual kitchen skills, and my older brother Darren, 38M, who once put peanut butter in scrambled eggs and still has the audacity to mock my cooking. Family dinners are basically medieval judgment ceremonies. You bring a dish, and everyone either claps like trained seals, or roasts you so hard you leave the house smelling like burnt ego. For years, my role was the tries hard, fails harder guy. Burnt stuffing? Classic Ben. Dry turkey? At least the dog won't eat it, haha. Overcooked pasta? Did you boil it in tears, buddy? Always said with a laugh, a nudge, a come on, we're just joking smirk. Except it wasn't funny after. Oh, the first decade. Last Thanksgiving was the cherry on the humiliation sundae. I spent 6 hours making this pumpkin sage lasagna I found on some food blog. Labor of love. Layers, homemade sauce, fresh herbs. I actually grew myself in a window box like some suburban pioneer. Brought it to the table, chest puffed out like a proud golden retriever. Casey took one bite and literally gagged into her napkin. Mom said, "Maybe next year just bring the rolls." Darren added, "Or a doggy bag for the dog, if it survives." I laughed it off, because that's what you do when your family publicly disembowels you over a $40 lasagna. You laugh, you drink too much wine, you pretend it doesn't sting. But inside, oh, I was stewing, marinating, slow cooking a revenge plan low and slow, baby. So when Christmas rolled around, and Mom sent out that everyone bring a dish, text, I smiled, nodded, said, "Sure thing, Mom. Can't wait." Then I quietly found a private chef on Craigslist. I'm not talking some random dude with a spatula and a dream. This guy was legit. Former sous chef at an upscale restaurant downtown. Big mustache, big opinions, bigger knife set. Said he'd do a full Christmas spread, custom menu, all fresh, all plated beautifully, for a price that made me wince, but also made me feel powerful. Revenge tasted expensive, and honestly, worth every penny. We planned it like a heist. He'd cook at his place. I'd pick everything up, reheat a couple things if needed. I'd plate it. I'd bask in the applause. No one would be the wiser. I wasn't out to humiliate anyone. I just wanted to see their smug little faces when I served something that didn't taste like foot, and they had to swallow every snarky comment with their Christmas ham. And for a little while, it worked. Christmas Day rolled in cold and mean, the kind of gray sky that feels like a personal insult. Perfect weather for a bloodbath. I pulled into Mom's driveway like a gladiator entering the Colosseum. In the passenger seat, a full spread of divine, holy offerings. Herb-crusted prime rib that smelled like victory. Roasted garlic mashed potatoes so silky you could ice skate on them. Brussels sprouts with bacon and balsamic that looked straight out of a Michelin ad. And a pumpkin tiramisu so beautiful I almost buckled and ate it in the car. I carried everything inside carefully, like smuggling stolen art. Mom met me at the door, already skeptical, already wearing her special "this'll be cute" smile. Ben brought food, she called over her shoulder. And I swear to God, Casey actually snorted. Let them laugh, I thought. Let them choke on it later. We plated everything. I didn't rush. No, I wanted them to watch me arrange those mashed potatoes into a perfect little whipped dome. Drizzle just the right amount of gravy like a sadistic Food Network host. By the time we all sat down, the smell had turned the whole house into one giant stomach growl. Dad loaded up his plate like he was preparing for a famine. Casey took one suspicious bite of the prime rib and froze. The room went dead silent. Then she swallowed and blurted out, "Holy SHD. Ben, did you sell your soul to Satan or something?" Asterisk. A compliment in Casey speak. Mom picked up her fork like it might explode, took a nibble, and blinked. Once. Twice. This is very moist," she said, like she couldn't physically force herself to say the word delicious without bursting into flames. Darren, never one to let a moment pass unmocked, piled food onto his plate, and said, "Hey, if this kills us, at least we'll die happy, right?" Then he took a bite and visibly reconsidered all his life choices. I sat there smiling like a Bond villain, slicing my prime rib into delicate, smug little bites, watching them eat, watching them squirm. Because they wanted to praise me, you could see it, twitching under their skin, but admitting I had cooked something better than Mom's meatloaf or Casey's deconstructed green bean casserole would be like sawing off their own legs. So they pivoted. "Maybe he's been taking secret classes," Mom said, laughing way too hard, like that was less humiliating than just admitting I wasn't completely useless. "Maybe he had a brain transplant," Casey added, grinning. Dad just muttered, "Maybe it's a Christmas miracle," and shoved another forkful of potatoes into his mouth like he was afraid the spell would break if he stopped chewing. And me? I didn't correct them, didn't defend myself, didn't say a word. I just kept refilling my plate, smiling like a man who had not only burned the bridge, but marshmallow toasted the bodies of his doubters on it. The whole meal, they danced around it. The new bin. The hidden talents. The "maybe we judged you too soon" without ever actually saying it out loud. Cowards. It was perfect. Absolutely, devastatingly perfect. At least, until Mom found the trash bag. It happened right before we sat down to eat. I was setting out the side dishes, mashed potatoes, roasted veggies, little crusty rolls that practically wept butter, when I saw it. A small, white rectangle, stuck to the bottom of the serving platter. At first, I thought it was a sticker. Something harmless. Maybe a price tag. But no, it was worse. It was so much worse. There, taped like a damn landmine under the plate, was a business card. Chef Marco Rivera. Private events. Catering. Custom menus. In bold, elegant script. Mocking me. Screaming fraud in capital letters. I froze. Fork halfway to the mashed potatoes. Mind sprinting in circles like a rat in a house fire. For a full 5 seconds, I contemplated faking a stroke just to get out of there. But survival instincts kicked in. I yanked the card off so fast I almost flung potatoes across the kitchen. Crumpled it in my fist like it had personally insulted my ancestors. Sprinted to the trash can. Jammed it deep under a pile of wrapping paper and vegetable peelings. Slammed the lid shut like I was sealing a nuclear reactor. I leaned against the counter, hard hammering, trying to look casual. Normal. Not like a man who just buried the smoking gun with all the grace of a raccoon on meth. And for a while, it worked. Dinner went on. Everyone shoveled food down like inmates at their last meal. Praise kept rolling in, snarky, suspicious, but praise all the same. I almost convinced myself it was fine. Almost. Until Mom decided to help clean up. I should have known. I should have known. She never helps clean up. That's my job. The bin can't cook, so he better do the dishes job. But there she was, bustling around the kitchen, gathering plates, tossing scraps into the trash like it was some goddamn archaeological dig. And then she paused, bent over the bin, fishing around like a crow spotting something shiny. I watched her in slow motion, pure horror bubbling up my spine. "What's this?" she said, plucking the card out of the trash. For a brief, desperate moment, I prayed she needed glasses. That she'd misread it. That she'd think it was a Christmas card. A dentist appointment. A coupon. No such luck. Her face twisted. First confusion. Then realization. Then something worse. Glee. A predator's smile. She turned, holding the card up between 2 fingers like it was Exhibit A in a murder trial. "Then," she said, voice high and sweet, like syrup on a bear trap, "care to explain why there's a private chef's card in our trash?" The room went dead silent. Forks froze midair. Oscar actually dropped a roll onto the carpet with a sad little thump. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. All the snarky comments, all the funny digs about my cooking, and here I was, handing them the nuclear codes. They didn't even have to twist the knife this time. I practically sharpened it for them. Casey was the first to break. She cackled. A full, ugly, hyena laugh. Clutched her stomach like she was gonna throw up from how funny it was. "Oh my God," she gasped. "You cheated. You had to hire someone to not suck?" Dad just shook his head slowly, like he was disappointed but not surprised. Darren muttered something about how, at least the dog wouldn't starve if the dog was served lies. Mom, still holding the card like it was radioactive, said, "All that praise, and you couldn't even fake it properly. You couldn't even be good at lying, Ben." And that's when it really hit me. Not that they were mad. Not that they were disappointed. But that they felt entitled to my failure. Like it was some family tradition I had dared to break. I had given them the perfect Christmas dinner, and all they cared about was finding a way to shove my face back into the dirt. And the worst part? I made it easy for them. I threw the business card into the same trash where they'd always tossed me. For one hot, boiling second, I almost apologized. It's a reflex, you know? Years of being the joke. You get used to making yourself small before someone can step on you. But then I looked around the table. At Casey, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. At Darren, shaking his head like he was embarrassed for me. At Dad, already pouring another whiskey like he couldn't even be bothered to pretend he gave a damn. At Mom, triumphant, holding up that stupid business card like a trophy she'd ripped from my ribcage. And something inside me just snapped. Not loud, not messy, quiet, final, like a rope finally giving way under too much strain. I stood up real slow, dragging my chair back with a screech that made everyone flinch. Took my sweet time wiping my mouth with my napkin. Then I smiled. Not a nice smile. Not a good sport smile. You have no idea how bad you just fucked up smile. You know what, Mom? I said, voice low, calm, surgical. You're right. Casey snorted. Darren rolled his eyes. Mom looked like she'd just won the lottery. I did hire a chef, I said. Because apparently the only thing worse than my cooking is sitting at a table full of people who'd rather die than say anything kind unless it's between two insults. Their smiles faltered. Good. I wasn't done. I didn't cheat to impress you, I said, looking right at Casey, who suddenly found the pattern on her plate very interesting. I didn't hire a chef because I thought you deserved some five-star meal. I leaned forward slightly, voice dropping to a razor-sharp whisper. I hired him because I wanted you all to choke on your own egos. And it worked. Silence. You could have heard a crouton drop. You didn't praise me because I got better. You praised me because for once you couldn't find a flaw big enough to turn into your personality for the night, I said, letting the words settle like poison in the air. Dad opened his mouth, probably to tell me to calm down, or to make some half-assed joke. I cut him off with a look. You've been laughing at me for years, I said. Every burnt dish, every dry turkey, every recipe I screwed up trying to be part of this family. I shrugged. Guess the joke's on you. Casey tried to pipe up, probably some snarky comeback loaded in the chamber, but I held up a hand. No, really. Enjoy the leftovers, I said, turning toward the door. Just make sure to fish the rest of my dignity out of the trash while you're at it. Mom called after me, voice cracking. Don't be dramatic, Benjamin. I laughed. Actually laughed. Dramatic, I said, pulling on my coat. Lady, you made a man's Christmas dinner into a paternity test for his self-worth. Don't start crying about drama now. And with that, I opened the door, walked out into the cold December night, and didn't look back. Not once. Behind me, I could hear the awkward clatter of plates, the brittle laughter of people realizing they'd lost something they didn't even know they needed. And me? I didn't feel small anymore. I felt like a goddamn nuclear missile walking away from ground zero. You'd think walking out on Christmas dinner would feel like ripping off a limb. It didn't. It felt like setting down a 300-pound backpack full of bricks labeled Mom's passive aggression, Casey's fake laugh, and Dad's silent disappointment, and just strolling away whistling. I sat in my car for a while afterward, hands on the wheel, half expecting to feel something heavy. Guilt, sadness, nostalgia. You know, the normal, I just blew up my entire family dynamic starter pack. Instead, I felt light, like I just ghosted a really toxic group chat but in real life. Freedom didn't smell like fresh pine or peppermint candles. It smelled like overcooked turkey, stale resentment, and cold night air. And God, it was glorious. I drove back to my apartment with the radio blasting Christmas music at full volume, singing along to Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas like a man who had finally kicked his worst habit. Begging people who didn't respect him for approval he didn't need. I even stopped at the drive-thru for a greasy burger. Sat there eating it in the parking lot with ketchup on my shirt, grinning like a lunatic. Merry Christmas, me. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls. Text ranging from, you really embarrassed yourself last night, Mom, to honestly you're just bitter because you suck at life, Casey, to next time bring a side of therapy with your main course, bro. Darren. I didn't reply. Didn't even read half of them. I just turned off my phone, made myself some instant ramen, and watched trashy Netflix shows until I physically became part of the couch. Peak self-care. But the real kicker? About 2 days later, the private chef, Chef Marco, bless his chaotic little heart, found me on Instagram. Apparently, someone, Casey, had posted a screechy rant about fake Christmas dinners and family betrayal on Facebook, with a screenshot of the business card. It went mildly viral. Not national news viral, but enough that Chef Marco's bookings tripled overnight. He DM'd me. Bro, I owe you a bonus. People love a scandal dinner. And that's how I accidentally launched a guy's catering side hustle into the stratosphere while simultaneously napalming my own family relationships. Honestly, October 10th would emotionally nuke Christmas again. A few days after Christmas, right when the dust was settling and my stomach muscles had finally recovered from laughing too hard at the Facebook drama, I got the text. From Mom, of course. "We've been talking, and we've decided we can forgive you if you apologize for your outburst." Forgive me if I apologize. The sheer Olympic-level mental gymnastics it must have taken to sin that without spraining a neuron almost made me admire it. Almost. Instead, I laughed so hard I snorted coffee up my nose. Sat there wiping it off my hoodie, rereading the message like it might magically start making sense if I stared long enough. Nope. Still pure, grade A nonsense. Apparently, in their heads, I was the villain for exposing their cruelty. I ruined Christmas because they couldn't keep their smug mouths shut for once in their lives. It was adorable, really. Like toddlers trying to negotiate their way out of timeout. But me? I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't even tempted to argue. Because arguing would mean I still cared what they thought. In newsflash, I didn't. Instead, I crafted the most beautiful, smug little reply of my entire life. "Thanks for the offer," I texted back. But I already forgave myself. "Happy New Year." And then I blocked every single one of them. Not out of rage. Not out of spite. Out of sheer, delicious peace. Because here's the thing they never understood. I was never trying to win their approval. I just wanted them to shut up long enough for me to breathe. And now, I could breathe all I wanted. I spent New Year's Eve with friends who didn't measure my worth by how well I cooked a ham. Friends who didn't care if I burned the mac and cheese, because they were too busy laughing at my dumb jokes and making bad champagne toasts. We ordered Chinese takeout, watched trashy movies, and at midnight, I stood on a shitty rooftop with a plastic cup of gas station Prosecco, grinning at the fireworks exploding over the city. Free. Finally, free. And somewhere out there, I bet Mom was still clutching that business card like it was Exhibit A in the world's saddest crime drama. "Merry Christmas, Mom. Better luck next guilt trip." About a week into January, right when I was starting to forget they even existed, I got an email. From Darren. Subject line: "Hey bro, need a favor." I nearly fell off my chair laughing. Of course they needed something. Of course the one who once said my cooking could make a cockroach file a health complaint was now crawling back with a smiley face in the subject line. I opened it, because honestly, I needed the entertainment. Inside, the world's most awkward attempt at fake brotherly love. "Hey man, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to say no hard feelings about Christmas. You know how it gets with family, lol. Anyway, Casey's wedding is coming up, and we're a little short on catering help. Thought maybe you could whip up some of that amazing food you made at Christmas? Would mean a lot. Family sticking together and all that. Let me know, bro." I read it 3 times just to savor the sheer audacity. They didn't even want me back. They wanted my fake skills back. The skills they spent years mocking. The skills they knew I had paid someone else for. It was like asking the magician's assistant to perform the main trick because you liked the costume. And that's when the perfect idea hit me. I wrote back immediately. "Hey Darren. Wow, so glad to hear from you. Honestly, it means the world that you guys appreciate my culinary talents now. Really touched, bro, truly. And you know what? I'd be honored to help with Casey's big day. Just a heads up, though, due to popular demand, I've had to start charging professional catering rates. I'm happy to send you a quote for services if you like. Shouldn't be more than $2,000 to $2,500 depending on the menu complexity. Let me know soon. My calendar's filling up fast. Cheers. Chef Ben." I hit send and leaned back in my chair, feeling like I'd just sunk a 3-pointer from the next damn county. 2 minutes later. No response. 10 minutes. Nothing. 30 minutes. Still radio silence. Then finally, the last nail in the coffin, a 1-line reply from Darren. "Never mind. We'll figure something else out." Translation: "We thought you were still desperate enough to grovel for scraps. We thought wrong." I laughed so hard I scared my neighbor's cat. Because that was the thing they never understood, not even now. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their praise. I didn't even need their invitations. I had everything I needed. A kitchen that didn't feel like a courtroom. Friends who liked me even when my chicken came out dry. A life that tasted sweeter than any overcooked family dinner. And as for Casey's wedding, let's just say, I heard through the grapevine that the catering fell through at the last minute. Apparently, cold grocery store chicken fingers don't pair well with emotional immaturity. Who knew? Casey's wedding came and went without so much as a peep from my family. No invite. No guilt-trippy text. Not even a passive-aggressive wish-you-were-here photo dump. Which, honestly, was a blessing. I got to spend that Saturday sitting on my balcony with a beer in one hand, a burger in the other, and a playlist of early 2000s emo hits blaring while I celebrated not spending $300 on a scratchy tux just to be fake nice to people who thought I was human roadkill 6 weeks ago. And the best part? Photos leaked. Because of course they did. Turns out Casey's Plan B catering was, let's call it, budget chic. Think gray meatballs, sad limp salad, and trays of chicken fingers that looked like they lost a fight with a microwave. The comments were brutal. Did you guys cater with gas station leftovers? Was this a wedding or a third-grade pizza party? Congrats on the new marriage and condolences on the dinner. I saw the photos. I saw the desperate smiles. I saw Darren trying to cut a meatball with a plastic knife like he was defusing a bomb. And you know what? I didn't feel bad. Not even a little bit. Because that's the thing they never got. You can't treat someone like a joke for years, then beg for a punchline when you're desperate. They had their chance. They had about 30 years worth of chances. And they chose mockery. They chose to laugh at every burned pie, every undercooked chicken breast, every effort I made just to be part of their ridiculous little dinner party of misery. So yeah, it was poetic. And life hands you a Costco platter and says you earned this kind of way. And me? I'm good. Better than good. I'm hosting a dinner party next month, my own friends, my own rules, my own kitchen. No judgment. No backhanded compliments. Just messy food, loud laughter, and the kind of love you don't have to buy or bake perfectly to deserve. Maybe the turkey will be dry. Maybe the mashed potatoes will be lumpy. Maybe the gravy will look like something scraped off a boot. And no one will care. Because when people actually love you, they don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to show up. Meanwhile, somewhere out there, my family's still wondering how everything went so wrong. Here's a hint, guys. It wasn't the cooking. It was you. Bon appetit, motherfuckers.